English 900, Book 2. English 900 is a very fast and efficient way of learning English in the shortest possible time. The course is made up of carefully selected combination and permutation of about 5,000 words in 900 sentences extracted from 6 volumes of books. Learners must understand, listen, repeat, and be able to reproduce the sentences with correct pronunciation, grammar, and spelling. Lesson 1, talking about objects and people. What do you want? I want a cup of coffee. What would you like to eat? Please give me a piece of pie. Which one would you like? This one or that one? It doesn't matter to me. I'd like to talk with Mr. Johnson or Mr. Smith. I'm sorry, but both of them are busy right now. Wouldn't you like some coffee? I'd rather have some tea if you don't mind. Do you know any of those people? 2 or 3 of them look familiar. All of those men are friends of mine. Which one of those men is Mr. Taylor? He is the tall man on the left. Lesson 2, talking about languages. Do you speak English? Yes, a little. Does your friend speak English? Yes, he speaks English perfectly. What's his native language? I don't know what his native language is. How many languages do you speak? My friend reads and writes several languages. How well do you know French? He speaks French with an American accent. My parents speak English perfectly. Mr. Jones can read French perfectly well. Sometimes I make mistakes when I speak English. I have a lot of trouble with pronunciation. How is her accent in French? Lesson 3, talking about activities. What are you doing? I'm reading a book. What's your friend doing? He's studying his lesson. I'm not doing anything right now. Where are you going? I'm going home. What time are you coming back? I'm not sure what time I'm coming back. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about my lesson. Who are you writing to? I'm writing to a friend of mine in South America. By the way, who are you waiting for? I'm not waiting for anybody. Lesson 5, asking about daily activities. What time do you get up every day? I usually wake up early. I get up at 6 o'clock every day. My brother gets up later than I do. After I get dressed, I have breakfast. Usually I have a big breakfast. I have juice, cereal, toast, and coffee for breakfast. I leave the house at 8 a.m. each day. I get to work at 9 o'clock every morning. I work hard all morning. I go out for lunch at about 12:30. I finish working at 5:45. I eat dinner about 7 o'clock. Before I eat dinner, I read the newspaper for a while. I usually go to bed at about midnight. Lesson 6, talking about yesterday's activities. What time did you get up yesterday morning? I woke up early and got up at 6 o'clock. My brother got up earlier than I did. Did you get dressed right away? Yes, I got dressed and had breakfast. What kind of breakfast did you have? What time did you get to work yesterday morning? I left the house at 8 o'clock and got to work at 8:30. Did you work all day? Yes, I worked from early morning until late at night. At noon, I had lunch with a friend of mine. I finished working at 5:30 and went home. After dinner, I read a magazine and made some telephone calls. I went to bed at 11:30 p.m. I went to sleep immediately and slept soundly all night. Lesson 7, meeting a friend. Where did you go yesterday? I went to see a friend of mine. Did you see Mr. Jones yesterday? I didn't see Mr. Jones, but I saw John Smith. What did you talk about? We talked about a lot of things. I asked him a lot of questions. What did you ask him? I asked him if he spoke English. He said he spoke a little English. Then I asked him if he knew anybody in New York. He said he knew a lot of people there. Finally, I asked him how old he was. He said he would rather not tell his age. He answered almost all of my questions. Lesson 8, talking about last year's activities. What time did you used to get up last year? I used to wake up early and get up at 7 o'clock. I used to set my alarm clock for exactly 7 a.m. I never used to oversleep. I used to get dressed quickly every morning. I always used to leave for work at 8:30. I used to start working at 9 o'clock every day. I used to have lunch every day at the same time. I used to work until 6 o'clock each day. I used to have dinner at 7:30 and go to bed early. My brother and I used to go to a lot of places together. We used to go to the movies about once a week. We used to have a lot of interesting friends. My brother used to speak French to me all the time. I always used to ask him a lot of questions. Lesson 9, asking about addresses. Where do you live? I live on Washington Street. What's your address? I live at 1203 Washington Street. I'm Mr. Smith's next door neighbour. You live here in the city, don't you? I'm from out of town. How long have you lived here? I've lived here for 5 years. He's known me for over 10 years. I've spoken English all my life. I've already read that book. He has studied French very long. Have you had breakfast already? Yes, I had breakfast 2 hours ago. Lesson 10, asking questions. Where were you yesterday afternoon? I was at home all afternoon. I was writing some letters to friends of mine. What were you doing at about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon? I was listening to the radio. What were you doing when I called you on the telephone? When you called me, I was eating dinner. When I saw Mr. Jones, he was talking with John Smith. While you were writing letters, I was reading a book. While we were having breakfast, John was talking on the telephone. Can you guess what I was doing this morning? I can't remember what John was doing yesterday afternoon. I've forgotten what he said his address was. I've forgotten what time he said he had dinner last night. They called us just as we were having dinner.